Yo, Oleg the Russian Bear, you won the giveaway. Congratulations and enjoy your hot comics list. All right, we got another week of the hottest comic books in the marketplace. We're talking about the height of the market, the blue chip keys, the comics defining this generation of collectors. And I'm at the table virtually with the leader of the Gempire, Gem from GemMintCollectibles. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, Tom. Thanks for having me. And I wonder if recent events in the MCU will influence this list.
Based off these mind-bending record breakers, I believe that to be true, Gem. Comic fam, we're here for you every single week. Slap that subscribe button. We got a giveaway on deck, so hit the like button. And let's chat about some Symbiote barcode goodness. We got some newsstands to discuss. We have to chat about Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 300 at number 10.
That's right, the first full appearance of Venom, and we know Carnage is coming. Let there be carnage, and I think we're going to get a trailer pretty soon, is what I'm hearing through the grapevine. This book is back on the list for the newsstand edition, but we got to talk about this record-breaking sale for the direct market CGC 6.5, which is up 36%. This book sold for $567 in March, and now selling for $770.
Wow, for a mid-grade copy, those gains are impressive. Now let's take a look at the newsstand. The 9.6 record breaker was set just this past March, going for $3,700 with a new high up 28% this week, now selling for $4,750. When you consider this newsstand craze and the difference between the direct market copy and that barcode, it really started last year, around the time we started covering this list. And back then, we even said it on the mic multiple times, it's reserved for the 9.8s. It's reserved for those leading blue chip books and the height of the market in grade. But now we're seeing it trickle down to the 9.6, specifically with this ASM 300, which is historical, don't get me wrong. But we're talking about barcode versus grade at this point, and not all comics are alike.
Yeah, you know what's funny about the whole newsstand craze is I did a video about a year and a half ago, Zorro, hit him with the link, talking about that newsstands do go for a premium more than the direct market counterparts, typically in a 9.8 only. And I feel like no later than a few weeks after I made that video, newsstands started breaking records in every grade. And I gotta say, I feel like it's just collectors hearing that newsstands are worth more, and people are overspending on newsstand copies that aren't reserved for the high grade 9.8s, maybe even 9.6s.
Well, when you consider that neither leading grading company keeps track of direct market copies or newsstand copies, you are forced to then look on eBay what's listed and what has sold, the historical record, to figure out scarcity of these particular collectibles. When you look at the newsstand 9.8, and you're hunting for one, it takes a long time for them to come up, which gives reason to why they will sell for, at times, double than their direct market counterpart. Let's take a look at the 9.6 of ASM 300. In the last 90 days, we've seen over 63 direct market copies hit eBay, with a lonely 8 that were available in a newsstand edition. Current listings show 20 direct market copies with only one newsstand available. Given those numbers, it gives reason to why members would then start to look at 9.6s in a newsstand copy as a favorable purchase because the 9.8s are so scarce. However, when you look at grades below that number, really 9.2 and below, there is a clear difference in availability. It's way easier to secure a newsstand, which for me makes it not as exciting nor an indicator of more value. As members look lower and lower on that grading list, they're essentially comparing barcode versus grade. And I'm hesitant to do that beyond the 9.6.
I still think the premium should be reserved for the 9.8. There are a ton of beat up newsstand copies out there, so let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. And let's talk about some ASM honorable mentions that all broke records this week. We got Amazing Spider-Man 50, the first appearance of the Kingpin, a CGC 9.2, which sold for $5,040 in May, is up 79%, now selling for $9,000. Then we got the ASM number 1, first in title, a CGC 4.5, sold for $11,040 in February, and that's up 56%, now selling for $17,200.
Then we have ASM 129, the first appearance of the Punisher, back in March, going for $2,500 in a CGC 7.5, up 40%, now selling for $3,500. Now, let's take a look at number 9 on the list. With a repeat offender, we have Incredible Hulk, issue number 181, the first appearance of, in full, a Wolverine.
And we're talking about all the Universal Blue Label CGC record breakers this week. None of that green label talk that we mentioned last week. We have a CGC 4.5. This book sold for $3,955 in March. It's up 24% now, selling for $4,900. Then we got the 7.5. This was a $7,800 book in March, and that's up 31%, now selling for $10,200, breaking the five-figure mark.
Then we have the 8.0 going for $8,250 back in March. That book's up 30%, now going for $10,750. Now, members of the comic fam sometimes gets discouraged when we chat about these high-ranking, high sales of blue chip books. But we like to remind the community that when these prices start boosting up, there's other comics that you should be looking at. That's like the true purpose and value that this list provides. Just like the book that we reminded you almost a year ago that we felt was undervalued and underrated that has just made our honorable mentions for this book this week. We have Wolverine #1 from 1988, the first ongoing Wolverine series. 9.8 back in April. Yeah. Just last month was going for $650. We reported on this when it was hitting $400 highs last year. Now up 23%, selling for $800. I suspect this is going to be a book that's going to clear the $1,000 marker this year.
And I feel bad because we were telling collectors you're going to have to go to the next best thing with this Hulk 181 outpricing itself. We told collectors about Wolverine 1, part of the 4-part Frank Miller miniseries, and then this book here, Wolverine 1 is first ongoing. We got to go to another honorable mention now, New Mutants 98. We're talking about the Mark Jewelers insert. The CGC 9.8 sold for $2,162 in September. And brace yourself, this book is up 356%, now selling for $9,850.
Holy hell, comic fam. These are some crazy gains. I mean, we've known that the Mark Jeweler variant, the insert, was increasing in popularity by the month. But seeing an over $8,000 price correction for this book in 9.8 only proves even more so that the height of the market, the 9.8 with a variant of the issue, whether it be an insert or the barcode, matters to collectors. That subcategory is becoming increasingly more important and more prestigious by the day. I suspect, although it's a completely different type of comic book, these prices have ramifications that could affect all the lower grades, with insert or not.
And speaking of repeat offenders on this list, moving on to number 8, we have another Bronze Age Grail, the Giant Size X-Men issue 1, the first appearance of the new X-Men team and second full appearance of Wolverine. We have a CGC 2.0, an $1,183 book just this past January, up 63%, now selling for $1,925.
How about that 5.0 going for $3,550 just back in March, now selling for $4,550 this past week. That's an increase of 30%.
And then we have that investment grade CGC 7.5. This book sold for $6,363 in March. It's up 18%, now selling for $7,500. No news, no castings, no trailers. Again, collectors just scooping up these X-Men keys before it's too late. And speaking of X-Men keys, let's hit them with the honorable mentions.
I'm a little surprised because we didn't get any big reveals in WandaVision nor Falcon and Winter Soldier that leads us to solid mutant spec to happen, but it doesn't matter. X-Men 1, once going for $6,100 in a entry-level 1.8, is up 49%, now selling for $9,077. I think their lack of appearances in the MCU is indicating more time to spec on these books.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying from the beginning. There is so much room to grow with X-Men and Fantastic Four keys because the movies are so far away.
That's why we were telling the community about X-Men number 12, the first appearance of Juggernaut. Just last week, I'll remind the community that a 7.0 hit a all-new high of $2,400. This week, we're talking about a 6.5 that once went for $1,320, is up above the 7.0 record breaker last week, selling for a new $2,860. That's an increase of 117%. I suspect this is a book worth holding because it's continually rising in price in a lower grade.
Especially when another 7.0 hits market, you know it's got to have some price correction.
Just like the X-Men 129, first Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost. Don't forget about that 9.8 last week. We mentioned we were going to see price correction across the board, and we just did with a 9.2, going for $666 back in April, up 71%, now selling for $1,140.
Then we got to talk about X-Men Annual 14, the first true appearance of Gambit, as most collectors will say. A 9.8 sold for $550 back in March. It's up 64%, now selling for $900.
Well, members must be having a hard time finding an affordable copy of 266, especially with that barcode. Well, let's take a look at X-Men 14, the first appearance of the Sentinels. You know that we're going to see these mammoth-sized robots eventually. A 7.5 going for $1,400 in February is up 50%, now selling for $2,095.
Then we have the infamous X-Men 94, the giant-sized X-Men team now in title. This book has been making crazy moves, and we have a record-breaking sale for a CGC 8.5, which sold for $2,340 back in March, up 24%, now selling for $2,900.
And then we have X-Men number 4, the first appearance of Omega Red. I'm just kidding. Wishful thinking. We have the OG Uncanny X-Men number 4, first Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and 8.5 back in March went for $13,000. That book's up 23% with a new height of $16,000. And now we're going to give some vampire love, and I'm not talking about True Blood. No, we're talking about Tomb of Dracula, issue number 10, the first appearance of Blade.
We know Blade is coming. We got the announcement during Comic-Con 2019, and now, as of February 2021, Marvel has hired somebody to write the screenplay. We have a CGC 5.0, which sold for $1,010 in April, up 24%, now selling for $1,250.
The 9.6, going for $6,300 in March, is up 36%, selling for $8,995. And these prices seem low, comic fam, especially when Gem hits you with the 9.8. This next number that he's going to report on should indicate one thing. Not, oh, I'm never going to be able to afford a 9.8. Let's just forget about this even being historically important. No. It means that the rest of the grades are going to creep up.
Yeah, when you have the highest percentage increase in the highest dollar amount for the highest grade, you know it's going to trickle down to the following ones. The 9.8 sold for $15,000 just last month, and it's up 67%, now selling for $25,000.
An increase of $10,000 right there means that the room to spec isn't just for the 9.8. If anything, you should be looking at entry-level copies, affordable copies, copies that most members could have a potential of actually owning. Some of these 9.8 sales happen under 5 times in a year. The buying pool is extremely small. Go for the play that will give you the most opportunity if you're looking to invest. Just like number 6 on the list with a very pricey book, but one that is being spec'd on for good reason. We have FF number 4, the first appearance of the first anti-hero. We have Submariner.
That's right, the first appearance of Namor in the Silver Age. You know he's got to be playing a part in the MCU, whether it's with the Fantastic Four, with Black Panther 2, or something. A CGC 3.0, a nice entry-level book, sold for $2,372 back in March. Already a pretty penny. It's up 39%. That bad boy's going for $3,300 now.
This book is tough, really in any grade. A 3.5 back in December went for $2,350. That's up 55%, now selling for $3,650. It's one of those books that when you see it, and if you're interested in investing, you have to throw money down now because you may not see one in a comparable grade for quite some time.
Yeah, just like the 6.5, this book sold for $7,422 just last month. It's up 35%, now selling for $10,000 in a matter of weeks.
Well, if you can't afford a mid-grade copy for $10,000, take a look at Submariner number 1 in 1968. A 9.2 went for $1,438 back in October. That's up 23%, now selling for $1,775. Members utilizing this data correctly to then put money at a more affordable price into comparable comics that could become blue chip books down the road.
And since we're on the subject of Fantastic Four, let's give a little shout out to Fantastic Four 48 because it didn't make the list this week. The first appearance of Silver Surfer and first cameo of Galactus. A CGC 8.5 still breaking records. It sold for $6,950 in February. It's up 65%, selling for $11,500.
Comic fam, I'll remind you, we are in open enrollment for the May mystery mail call. Every box is getting our May exclusive, a gorgeous, a stunning copy, watercolors done beautifully by the talented Sabine Rich. Every member is getting a Woman of Marvel issue #1 in their box. You can hit the link in the description or go to ComicTom101.com to join the community. And now let's take a break and look at number 5 on the list with another major blue chip key. We're talking the first appearance of Thor in Journey into Mystery 83.
With us getting casting announcements and on-set picks, everyone's eyes are now back on Thor. The CGC 1.8, which sold for $3,899 in January of this year, is up 31%, selling for $5,113.
The 3.5 is also up 64% from its $6,600 price back in 2018, now selling for $10,800.
Then we got the 4.0, which sold for $10,000 back in February, up 38%, now selling for $13,750.
Now, you mentioned that we got leaks. I mean, we're seeing Christian Bale with a shaved head. We know that Gore the God Butcher is going to be debuting in this next Thor movie, as well as other gods potentially. I mean, he's the God Butcher. He's going to have to kill some gods on screen, and I don't expect it to be Chris Hemsworth. Well, let's take a look at number 4 on the list with some more spec that just got validated this week. We have Journey into Mystery Annual #1, the first appearance of Hercules, Zeus, and the first time Hercules fought Thor.
Yeah, and I didn't want to spoil number 4 on the list, but that casting announcement was Russell Crowe playing Zeus in Thor: Love and Thunder. So he might be the one that gets killed by Gore the God Butcher. This book is on fire right now. The 4.0 selling for $300 back in June. It's up by 50%, selling for $450. The 4.5, which sold for $375 in March, is up 47%, now selling for $550.
And the 7.5, which went for $909 back in 2019, that's up 70%, now selling for $1,545. And don't get discouraged because we think that Russell Crowe's time on screen may be short-lived, because there was spec back in November of 2019 that started that Hercules was going to be a mainstay in the MCU. And considering that this is his first appearance as well, that's really where the spec has been focused on. The Zeus spec is just sprinkling on the ice cream.
And even though it wasn't this week's record-breaking sale, we got to talk about the CGC 9.8 of this book that back in February sold for a whopping $73,000.
The previous all-time high was set back in 2003, going for $6,075. And with only one graded copy of this annual at a 9.8, between both grading companies, it makes sense why the uptick. Something to learn from this $73,000 sale, however, is that it wasn't actually recorded nor reported on GPA. If you look right now, that number is nowhere to be found. However, Key Collector has confirmed that sale indeed happened. Gem, can you fill the members in about how we utilize GPA?
Yeah, GPA is a subscription-based website. That means you have to pay for it, either monthly or yearly, which tracks the sales of CGC comic books that are sold through multiple auction houses like eBay.
It's a very respectable company. Dealers across the world utilize it on a daily basis. Every time I see Jeff, he's got it on his phone right next to Key Collector, and we source a lot of information from there. However, there is so many comic sales, so many record breakers that happen that at times they don't get recorded. And this is where things get a little bit volatile. Sometimes things get missed, and it's difficult to tell the historical record for comic sales, especially when they're momentous occasions such as this one. Case in point, let's take a look at the giant size numbers currently.
Yeah, currently GPA only lists 2 recorded sales of giant size X-Men 1, an eBay sale and a Comic Connect sale.
And we know, based on Key Collector analysis, reporting every single week for the comic fam, slap that subscribe button, that there's been at least 4 different graded 9.8s of giant size that have hit eBay's market alone, let alone the Comic Link all-time record of $67,000. Now, how do these lack of reporting affect future purchases? Well, take a look at the most recent giant size X-Men 9.8 that sold this week, going for $49,100. That's $20,000 less dollars than the market potential cap that was set from that all-time record.
Yeah, and this is not a knock at GPA. They've been the name in comic book sales tracking since I can remember, and it's got to be difficult to track every sale of every book in every grade. But this is an example of how important it is to be on top of that, because dealers could potentially be leaving thousands and thousands of dollars on the table.
The lack of awareness has its advantages to some, but could also be a detriment to others in the future, because the historical record matters. You have to know how these books got to this point, which is why we're here every single week for the Comic Fam. Now let's take a look at number 3, because we have some trailers dropping this past week that are causing a buzz. We have Marvel Super Special issue number 15, the first appearance of Shang-Chi. Gem, what do you think about this? I'm so hyped about this movie.
I gotta say, the trailer has me a lot more hyped than I was going into this. I'm not a big Shang-Chi fan. I didn't grow up reading his comics, but it looks like it's gonna be an awesome martial arts flick with the power of the MCU behind it, so I'm all for it.
Last week, this book made its way onto the trending comics list because of how many were being purchased in a short week post the trailer. We saw an over 200% uptick in copies sold for a book that averages over $1,000 for a low-grade copy. And now we are reporting on mid-grade copies and above, starting to increase in value, all above 50% in 7 days.
The mid-grade 5.5 sold for $515 back in April when everybody knew this movie was coming. But now look, a 55% increase, now selling for $800. The next grade up, a 6.0, which only sold for $518, but that's from back in 2019. It's up 74%, selling now for $900.
We're seeing 8 records broken in the 23 grades in total this week. The 7.0 back in March going for $629 is up 59%, now selling for $1,000. I'm excited to see the high grade copies and where they land. There was only 2 9.8s that have sold this year, with a height of $7,500 that was set back in February. And that's not the only Kung Fu master that is making this list this week. We have an honorable mention for Marvel Premiere issue 15 to talk about. The first appearance of the Iron Fist, 9.4 going for $1,200 in April, an uptick of 42% after Netflix rumors continue to expand. Will we see our Defenders enter back into the MCU? It's looking more and more likely, now selling for $1,700.
All right, guys, number 2 on the list, a repeat offender. So happy to see this book back on here. It's Avengers number 4, the first Silver Age appearance of Captain America. Is it Falcon Winter Soldier? Is it the Captain America 4 movie that was announced? Either way, this book is breaking all types of records.
Gem, how did you feel when you saw Sam Wilson on screen reclaim the mantle that was gifted to him by Steve Rogers?
Yeah, I think all fans were like, finally, this is what was supposed to happen. Why did you even give the shield to the Smithsonian in the first place? And I really like how comic book accurate they went with his Captain America suit.
It definitely felt good to see Sam Wilson take on that mantle, but it also weirdly felt really good to see John Walker transition from his fight to wanting to be Captain America and changing into that newly designed suit and taking on the role as U.S. agent. That got me all hyped. But we're talking about neither of these characters. We're talking about a major Silver Age key for Captain America, the introduction of this character in the Silver Age with some big gains this week. The 3.5 selling for $1,374 back in April, up 67% selling for $2,300 this week. The 5.0 going for $2,160 in February. That's up post Falcon and Winter Soldier, 57%, now selling for $3,400. And the 5.5 can't even keep up.
Yeah, that's right. These sales are happening so fast that the 5.5 is underperforming compared to the 5.0. This book sold for $1,880 back in January. It's up an impressive 66%, but only selling for $3,120, which means it has some more room to grow.
That's right. Price correction on its way. Just like what happened with Avengers 57. More ramifications that were lingering post WandaVision. We have the first appearance of the Vision in the Silver Age. An 8.0 going for $1,100 back in March is up 20%. Now selling for $1,325.
After the show has already ended.
Damn right, Gem. And before we chat about the #1 hottest book in the entire world, I want to remind the comic fam to follow you on your YouTube channel, where you're not only breaking down comics every single week, chatting about reviews, non-spoilers, but you're showcasing some things that some of us will never get to see in person. And I'm talking those beautiful statues.
That's right, and we're going to be taking the responsibilities off of Very Gary to cover the most recent MCU TV shows, and we're going to be doing Loki episode breakdowns every Saturday night, and Tom's invited in those too, so maybe he'll show up as well.
You know I'm going to make it there, Gem. Comic fam, go follow Gem over there in anticipation for these awesome breakdowns we're going to do, and hit that subscribe button here, and wait till the end of the video because we do have a giveaway. Let's chat about the #1 hottest comic book in the world. Strange Tales, issue number 159, the first appearance of Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine.
What the MCU has been doing so great in these Disney Plus shows is introducing new characters or changed characters and not killing them off or ending their story at the end of the show. They live on to potentially be in other shows and other movies, and we've been seeing these characters' first appearances perform really well. Contessa's gonna do great. She may show up in Black Widow, maybe another Disney Plus show. You have the white android Vision. Now we have Sam as Captain America. The list goes on. And we got a CGC 6.5, which sold for $200 in April. It's up 138%, now selling for $475.
The 7.5 going for $125 in April is up 460%, now selling for $700. But the 9.6, holy smokes, a new price correction post Falcon and Winter Soldier back in April going for $1,985. Post season finale up 130%, selling for a whopping $4,560.
And I'm a huge Julia Louis-Dreyfus fan. Seinfeld is my all-time favorite sitcom, and I love seeing her in the MCU. She's cocky, she's confident, a little arrogant. Anyway, I love where they're going with this character.
They kept this secret under wraps as well, which is super impressive. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was being escorted out of the set with a cloak and a hood on so that they can keep this secret from the community so that it really landed well for the audience members. And it truly did, especially when you're considering the hype level and the expectation for mutants to potentially be incorporated. Omega Red, Mystique, Mephisto, the list goes on. But regardless of that potential disappointment, members are so hyped with what they're getting that I don't think it matters.
Hey, Tom, we got anything to give away for these guys?
You know we do. Let me know what you think about this list. Comment down below. Do you own any of these comics? What are you speccing on? It'll enter you to win a Demon Days #1 variant by Mike McCone. And, as always,
geek responsibly and stay minty fresh.
Enough said. Comic fam, we're doing a live claim sale on the Golden Age Guru's Instagram Friday and Saturday. Come by and say hi. We got the Guru. We got Russ, the comic sensei. Comic Pops is gonna be there, and I'm bringing a bunch of dope books as well. If you wanna score some fire keys, follow the Golden Age Guru on Instagram and don't miss it. And take a look at these other videos. We made them for you. Enjoy.